Welcome to the Domain Social for September 4th, 2020.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. For those of you watching not live, you can subscribe to the Zoom invites at thedomainsocial.com, or just write an email to info@domainsocial. You can follow at Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. All the info is right there. And just to get an idea of what our usual agenda is, it's nothing fixed. We just talk about, incoming offers, recent sales, things going on in the news, trends, Q&As people might have, reviews of domains you might have, you want opinions on. Around 4:45, not written in stone, depending on how interesting the current composition is going. We'll stop for a little auction. And aside from that, there's nothing really set in stone. Usually at 6 o'clock, I'd stop recording and we'd get into the after party, but now it's just, we'll stop recording when things stop getting as interesting. And on that note, did anybody have anything important they want to talk about this week? Any big sales or anything big happenings? Don't all talk at once.
Hey, Paige. Hey, Paige, you want to talk about your sale to my client and now your client? Is that a no? You're muted.
Sorry. I'm usually uncomfortable talking about my sales, but I'd say probably not. But if you want to, I'll do it.
I sold a domain name 1 hour before the social started.
What? Mike, you made a sale?
Out of the blue, it was an Afternic sale. I had it parked on an FT page.
Nice.
But they bought it through Afternic. It was a high 3 figures, but
they count. They all count.
Yeah, and I did sell an FT yesterday or the day before for twice that, so that was good.
Care to share what they were?
No, I don't think so. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody have?
How about just a quick poll? Who sold a name this week since the last social?
I sold a couple of domains this week. It's been a good week. I sold conferencebadges.com, sold it to the company that has a singular version, and I included conferencebadges.ca and conferencebadge.ca as a bonus. They're based in Canada. And I was really happy with the price we agreed on because, with the situation, there's not, that's, the future of, conferences, in person, it's all up in the air. I got $8,500 for the 3 domains.
Wow.
And I also sold markford.com, which was an upgrade from the .net. Mark Ford's a successful businessman. He's got his own Wikipedia page, and he had inquired about the domain originally about a year ago, and he kept increasing his offer, and we agreed on $3,750.
Good for
Nice.
you.
Very nice.
I've got another deal pending too. I hope to share that one with you next week.
So how did he get in touch with you for that one? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
For Mark Ford?
Yeah.
Markford.com. He initially inquired, it was over a year ago. He just typed in the domain and have it set up with FD landing page. And his initial offer was $1,000, and then he kept increasing it, and we agreed on $3,750.
Wow. Over a year.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to show. I'm trying to think what the.
Yeah, I've had other transactions. It's taken months to close. One deal took about 8 months to close. Another deal took about close to 6 months to close. And always try to work with the clients, coming up with some kind of, payment plan that fits within their budget.
Payment plans are good.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they mean making a sale or not making a sale.
Patience
I like
is
having-
good too.
Yeah, I like having recurring revenue each month.
I had a sale on Dan. I won't say what the domain was, but got into the back and forth negotiation. It was very interesting. One of the negotiation points that the buyer used was, I'm a domain investor, so lowest price is best. and they kind of, dropped the price down to ridiculous. And I held firm at my price, and I said, I'm a domain investor. Highest price is best. And then they just bought it now. It was so funny to flip that back at them. It was like, great argument, but all you're saying is, my price is good for me. I'm like, okay, well, my price is good for me. Whatever. It was a 4character.com, and it was a 4-figure sale, but it's tough to average those out these days.
So it was not pronounceable.
I guess you could pronounce it, but it would be awkward. Like, it wasn't something that spelled, it wasn't like a typo, like a vowel disconnect type of typo or anything like that.
It would sound like you're speaking Klingon.
There you go.
So nothing new for John.
Yeah.
We call that name prose pronounceable.
Yeah.
Wow.
ZQTX. Yeah, it's pronounceable. No problem.
Can I say something on that?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, just wanted to know, as he said that he was just very much fixed about his prices. And I also in past, not, in few weeks, but in past I got offers on my domain, and the domain is quite valuable domain. And the person was saying, like, he was trying to discourage me on that price. No, this domain is not that much worth. And I got appraisal from dnprices.com. DN Prices, yeah, and some of 2-3 professionals also. So they said that this domain is like above $10K, but the man was consistently, no, your domain is lower price and I want in this price. So how you guys deal with that kind of conversation? Like, I was very much disheartened, and I was disappointed at why he want my domain, and above all he was saying that no, this is that much worth. So how you guys make that happen, make the sale happen, and make a person convinced that, yeah, how to deal with that situation?
I always just quote my price and say that's what it is. I mean, I don't, a buyer's always going to talk down the value because that's their job, just like the seller's always going to talk up the value. But, you value it at what you value it, and that's your price, and you can just stick to that price. I mean, if there's anybody, I usually don't go into how I value it, but I mean, those are the names that I sell. I just sell for brand value. Does anybody else have any thoughts on explaining the valuation of a name?
Yeah, I mean, you also have to be careful with actual where you get the valuation from, because it's not an exact science, right? And oftentimes where you'll get it evaluated at it's in their interest to put the value up because it makes you as a customer of their valuation service happier. But in terms of what the person said, depending on how his language you use, it might not have meant like it's not worth that much. It just means it might not be worth that much to him, because every buyer, is going to use a domain a little bit differently sometimes, and they have different skills and experiences and sort of tools that they can use to build out that site. And what some person could, profit from one domain is going to be very different from another person. So it could be very well that person doesn't value your domain as much as you do, or as much as somebody else. And oftentimes it's just luck.
How many times they won't even be a capable buyer of that name, and they're just trying to get it for whatever they can get it for. That may not even be your best buyer, or even close, or somebody that's even going to be willing to do anything close to what your price is. And you'll just waste time explaining to them. And that's a hard part, I think, trying to figure out whether it's worthwhile even engaging in negotiation, or if you're just wasting your time and spinning your wheels.
Why don't you share the name with us if you want, and then we can give you some ideas.
Because all our opinions is useless unless we know the domain.
Okay, I'll just share the name. I'll just type it.
Yeah, type it in the chat if you want, so nobody repeat it, but we'll just be in the chat if you want.
Good idea.
I think the other thing that happens is both sides want to appeal to fairness somehow in the negotiation.
Is the name visible?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah, country property.
Well, okay, I think she typed it there because she didn't want us to say it on the for YouTube, but
yeah, nobody
Yeah.
pronounced it. Okay. Well, Ari, I think that you know, I mean, it's a very good name, and I think that one thing that you ought to do is go to Name Bio and just look for, you know, benchmarking purposes. Look at previous sales with the keywords, you know, starting with, ending with, and then just using the .com at the end, and so that will give you an idea as to what similar names have been selling for, and then also then put that phrase, that 2-word, into Google search, and just see how many pages there are, how many websites there are with these. I mean, the idea is really to dig in and to try to unearth, if you will, or discover the value in that name in terms of, again, previous sales that are similar, and also how many times that phrase is mentioned in Google and other search engines. And something else that you could do also is look at similar names. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 similar names right now, and just search for them. So let's say GoDaddy, and if the domains are taken, in lots of cases, there people are selling these names at premium prices, and so that will also give you some benchmarking prices, so that you know a name similar to yours is priced at whatever, $15,000, $20,000, whatever. And that also will give you a point of conversation with this buyer, saying that, look, a similar name is selling for, and so, of course, if it is to your advantage, then quote that price. So I think these 3 things you ought to do that will give you more, you know, to coin a phrase, it will put more, arrows in your quiver. You know, it will give you more ammunition that you can use in a engaging conversation. It works for me, and I really think it could work for anyone.
Thanks, Joseph. Actually, I'm looking forward for some broker, professional broker who can just speak out, because there are actually a lot of sites. If you search in Google, like this name has a lot of potential, and everybody in this industry, I know, they all said that this is a nice solid domain. But if you want to flip for a good price, you should speak to some professional broker, because as I actually am software developer, I don't get so much time, and we are here a team of domain investor, and we just flip domain for our, that is, you can say, our side business, and we work for a small SEO company, and they are into designing website, so they purchase domain from us, and like that, and we just flip domains via social media, Facebook, and also this one has got potential, so I'm just looking forward that someone can help, and we can just like that. As you said, it was a nice suggestion, but I have to spend a lot of time searching how to contact them, and who's the lead person to contact, and like that. I mean, everything is not available in Whois, as you also know. You are just very much experienced in this industry. So whom to contact, how to contact, and if somebody is interested, and how to convince them. This all plays very important role. So that's a professional broker thing, I feel.
Yeah, it's tough when to get 5K on a 2-word domain when you're doing outbound. It's not impossible, but that step at the domain where I think you we all saw the domain. It's pretty good one. I think it's not unreasonable to think you get a 5-figure offer at some point down the road, but to liquidate it quickly, it's very different. You're talking a very different price scale when you're aggressively looking for a buyer. Now, real estate, there are buyers, without saying the name, we could say it was in real estate. And I think it's not unreasonable to think there's a buyer out there. Now, is the domain, is it valuable enough to get a good broker to do it? It's one of those, I guess it's maybe one of those borderline ones. I think most of the brokers that we all hear about are mostly take on domains that are 50K and above, but 50K and above outbound, but there are probably some that are willing to do it for less. I don't know. Is anybody here
Hey, I have a sort of a meta question. Ari, have you gone through the DN Academy program to learn from some of what's there? Because you might find that you can find these answers for yourself and be able to handle a lot of this yourself.
Yes, but DN Academy, I have seen lots of YouTube videos, but not professionally involved in the training program as you're talking about. But yeah, I have gone through the lot of videos and learned a lot of things like how to approach end users. But the thing is exactly a lack of time. The thing is like that. So that's the main concern here. How to like if time will not allow us, and someone like me, and I know myself better because I'm involved in my software projects and again doing the second business. So lack of time is main role here actually.
I mean,
Because
you're gonna have to, if you want to get more than 20K, you're gonna have to just wait. That's the name of the game. I mean, it's not like a stellar name that a broker is going to go out of their way to sell, because it's, like I said, it's kind of like a 50K plus name to the right buyer. You know, if you really luck out, maybe you could get low six figures. But yeah, I think like in terms of like, if you want to flip it, you mentioned flipping, it's going to be like more in that kind of 10K range, to be honest. So
yeah, I just want to be not looking for that higher prices. Like I want to do justice with the domain name. As you guys know, this domain has a lot of value, so just justice to the domain name itself. Like I'm not looking forward for like 75K 25. I mean,
what are you
do
looking
justice to
for?
the domain.
You
Above
said you're not
10K,
looking
yeah.
not looking for 25, so you're looking for
No,
what?
sorry, that was, I mean, not looking for 75K, like, so justice to the team, that's it. Above 10K will be,
You know,
I can think about that.
you can email me if you like. It sounds like you might be looking for a reasonable range.
Yeah, that's okay. Just mention your email ID and I'll just mail. Above 10K will go, but not like I can wait for years for 75K. That is a different question.
Yeah, so exchange emails in the private part of the chat.
Yeah, thanks.
But remember, Ari, good things come to those who wait.
And I think that's
Exactly,
important. And I think one of the things you might ask yourself is, how could I wait? Are there other properties I have that do have some wholesale liquid value that I could sell to replace the cash flow I think I need from this name, to basically pay yourself to wait on a higher quality name than maybe a big group of medium or lower quality names. So you almost have to, you'd be like paying yourself to wait on this one name. I understand if that just doesn't work, and you may say you just don't understand it doesn't work, but to broaden the question, like I think Jonathan does a lot, to broaden the question, sometimes if you have a name that you know the differential between waiting for an end user to come to you and what you can get wholesale is so big, you may ask yourself, how can I take, whether you call it alpha or beta or delta, how can I take something that does have some liquid value, move that to replace what I think I need from this one, and in essence, pay yourself to wait to get that big differential a couple years down the road.
Thanks,
There's
Payne.
also the
Thanks.
value
That was a good one.
of bird in hand. So, you know, if you say, if you think the name is worth, say, $10,000, and you know you can get that in the next couple of years by waiting, but somebody's offering you 8,000 now, it's probably worth taking the 8,000, right?
That's what I was, yeah.
And putting that into other names.
Yes, that's what I feel like. I mean, I might not be correct, but yeah, that's what I feel. My thought, like, yeah, if I'm getting 8K, why not invest into other domains?
If you can get 8K
I
for that name right now, then you should take it. Like that's about, like, I was gonna talk to you offline, but that's about the range.
Yeah,
8K.
yeah, yeah.
If you can get 8K for that name right now, then you should take it. Like that's about, like, I was gonna talk to you offline, but that's about the right range. 8K. 8K That's a really good. If you're looking to flip, that's a
So
good
do you
range.
think it's okay?
Have you tried brand?
Okay, thanks for the suggestions.
Yeah, but there's no casino cash out window that you can go to get a hypothetical wholesale, you know, where you just show up and say, I'll take 8K. And that's the hard part.
No, I was just
You think that just from my experience dealing with investors over the years, you think that the determining factor is whether or not you've decided to take the lower number, as if when you decide to take the lower number without an offer, you know what I mean, you could actually get it. And I think that that those are two different things. So
Yeah, Paige is right. So like you could cash out on that domain, I expect, for like $4,000 tomorrow. So like a true cash out, like as if you're going to take your chips and you want cash in hand, you could probably cash out around $4,000. So like if you then think to yourself, okay, let's say that you paid $5,500 for that name because you wanted to pay a little premium for that chance to sell it for more. And shortly after, let's say within a few months, you get an offer for $8,000. You know, if you're thinking, I don't want to hold this name for a long time, then $8,000 is a good offer.
Okay. Thanks, Rayson. Thanks. I'll think upon that.
Josh, when you were saying like 8 to 10K, were you talking like a rush sale to, you know, an end user
No,
like rush?
I said a rush sale. A rush sale would be like 4K.
But rush sale would be like liquid to another domainer, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying, like you want to get out of the name tomorrow, you can probably sell it for like 4K. But there's almost like another level where, let's say that you wanted to get out from it within the next like month or like 2 months. I think that you could probably get closer to like 7,500 to 10K maybe. But that's why I say, like, if you have 8K today and you want to get out, then you might as well take that 8K.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering what the difference for the two processes would be. Like when you say 1 or 2 months, what would you do? You would
put this, if you put this in front on the market, wherever you want to list it for, let's say 4,000, it's going to go. In my opinion.
And I think what Josh is talking about, by putting specific numbers on it, I think that's the best way to go about selling a name, is right now, put specific numbers on what would make you happy and successful. Because once you start going after those numbers, you could easily change every day, depending if you get a lead replies, hey, I'm interested, then you could all of a sudden think, oh, I'm going to get 12, you know? And I think by Josh putting specific numbers on it, it's like you have to remember where you started from, you know, like say this name, just as an example. I'm trying to get 4 over the next 30 days. I'd like to get 8, even though retail's 50, you know what I mean? But remember where you started. Otherwise, you'll get, you know, you won't be able to, you know, the only way to sell it for 4 is to ask higher and have already decided you would take 4. And I know I'm kind of lost myself here, but I think it's important to set your expectations and then start the process. And when your number gets hit, take it, because otherwise you can change so much as you get out in the marketplace, I think.
So like, yeah, like at wholesale, one person might like it for 5K, but then like 10 people might like it for 4K, right? And then like 25 people might like it for 3K. So it's a case of like, how long does it take to get in front of that one person that likes it right now for 5K? And it's a lot easier, right, to sell it at 4K because there's more people that would take it at that price. So that's why I say, like, there's not like a fix necessary, like at wholesale, this is this dollar amount. It depends how quickly you want to sell it at wholesale. And for me, like wholesale is probably like within a 30-day range.
Anyways, Ezekiel wanted to know what we think the value of showerwalls.com would be. I don't think he has a microphone, so I will just speak for him. Showerwalls.com. Anybody have any feedback on that domain?
I think a product name like that
it can't be used for anything else is a little tough. You know, it's probably some hundreds of dollars, and that's it.
Yeah,
Is my guess. Josh, you probably have a better idea of value.
Over an affiliate.
3K bin, long hold, maybe never ever sell. Wouldn't probably, you know, I might accept it for like $100 at the NWE, if you wanted to get rid of it, but then someone else would have to do a long hold.
Mike, you say it has 2,400 monthly searches for shower walls plural.
It's a decent like EMD. They just don't sell it at retail.
This is one of these cases where you got to know, you know, specifically the domain. What's a shower wall? Like,
So surrounding inside the shower. So
like it's got a decent amount of search volume, so it has some value. It's not like a completely dud EMD, but it's like very few companies are buying that type of EMD right now. So I would put like a 3K buy it now on it.
Okay.
So he had said he had a $250 offer on it. I believe is what it was put in the chat.
What was the offer? 250?
It's above wholesale, I think.
But if you think about how you'd monetize this, there's a lot of bathroom revitalization people you could do lead gen for, things of that nature. But I still struggle to see how you could recapitalize to get to $250 through that method, if that's something you could get there quickly or not. Otherwise, it seems like it's a product name for a company or something like that. It sounds like it's an above wholesale amount. Might be worth considering.
He said he had a $2,500 offer in the past, but he rejected it. Sounds like what the guys are saying here is that might have been a mistake. That's probably a good number for that domain, I'm guessing.
Yep, I would have taken $2,500 for that.
How do you go back to somebody if that happened? How would you go back to somebody, knowing full well they're going to be like, "Oh, you're back. You know, I'm going to offer you less." How would you try to recover on something like that? Anybody?
You just send an email saying, I mean, what I do is I'll go back, and if I can't nibble anymore, and there's like they've at a bottom line, that's it, they won't pay a nickel more, I'll wait, and then I'll just go back and say that I've decided to accept their offer.
And just say it like that, not if you're still or anything like that. Just decide to take
I'm not a big, despite popular belief, I'm not a big bullshitter.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on how you closed down the negotiations last time. Like if you told them to take a hike, might be a little tough crawling back to them. But if you just said no, now's not the time, then you can come back with them later on and say, okay, I'm ready to sell now.
Yeah, but what's a reasonable amount of later on? Like, there's got to be a time horizon for how long before you reach out to somebody.
I mean, in terms of a minimum time, you mean?
No, a max. I mean, you know, look, if it was an offer like 3 years ago for $2,500, you know,
I don't
probably
think
got an expiration date on you know how long it is before.
Why make that assumption?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, look, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I don't think you ever assume that someone is no longer interested. Certainly that, you know, their circumstances may change, but you don't know how it may change. Maybe it changes, you know, favorably for you. I mean, I've heard stories about Uniregistry that, you know, their drip system bangs somebody for 10 years and then they close the deal. You know, I mean, on the bigger names, oftentimes those negotiations take a lot longer. I mean, I've had deals that have taken 2 or 3 years to close. Not so much on the smaller names, but on the smaller names, you know, who knows? If it's a year later, they might decide, yeah, we're still interested because it's it's a product that we sell, so we'll take it. Maybe they have a little bit more cash now. So, I mean, I wouldn't. It's just an email, right? So I wouldn't not ping somebody if they expressed interest in the past.
I've had something a little bit the other way around. I told somebody a couple of years ago I'd take $700 for a name that I had priced quite a bit higher, up near 2,000 maybe. And I said, if we can close it right now, and that's kind of how I used it. And then several months later, he said, well, I'll take you up on your $700. I said, no, that was when I really needed the money. I said, it's $1,500 right now. And it didn't ultimately close. It should have closed, but then somebody in the office didn't want to, you know, go through escrow the way that I wanted to or whatever it was. And then, you know, it's like, okay, fine, whatever. Maybe someday or somebody else will buy it for what it's worth.
I mean, look, I mean, I could tell you, you know, every possible scenario has happened to me over the years. You know, I've raised prices and it's worked, and I've lowered prices and it hasn't worked. And, you know, I think every scenario is different. Every buyer is different. But if you're willing to take an old offer, you should reach out and still try to close it. Doesn't matter how old it is.
I really like Braden's contribution there, because we can only control our side of the transaction. And sometimes you could almost obsess over the hypothetical, what if I do this? What if I do this? Then what if I do this? But then they're going to do this, and then they're going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. And I don't want to go down that path. And I think there's a reasonableness in what Braden was sharing. It's going to come out in the end, what's the truth, you know what I mean? And whether you'd sell it for your old number. So engage, and there's probably more, like Braden said, you don't know about the transaction. That's what I'm taking from Braden's comment. There's more that you don't know about the transaction than the sense that you know how all the chess pieces are going to go. So I appreciate that, Braden.
Yeah, I mean, I've had scenarios where somebody's reached out about a name and, you know, I didn't have it priced, or maybe they didn't see my published price and they offer me far more than I'm willing to take. Or a broker that's like, you know, how much you want for this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take $100,000. They're like, oh God, the budget's like 750,000. That's underpriced. We need to raise it up. I mean, it's like every possible scenario is.
What's their number?
What's that?
What's their number? That's the broker I'm hiring. I love that. No, the reason I brought up the time lapse piece is I've had offers that come from like QQ addresses over in China that are pretty substantial. And I've noticed that if you let a certain amount of time lapse, and it's like those are Bic lighters, they're disposable. You know, they'll use them for a period of time and then just move on. So, you know, clearly, obviously, I just would get an email bounce or something like that to tell me. So, I mean, I get it, but I think there is something to be said for these have a shelf life. These offers. I have actually, towards what Mike Gilman mentioned, I actually, if I use the price to motivate some kind of call to action, I explicitly state that in my counter. Like I'll say, if we can close this by X date, I'm willing to accept this, to help kind of box out people from coming back, you know, way in the future to that price. But the time horizon on all these is a really important consideration when you're negotiating.
I don't like using the today only, but I'll say soon or like right now it's the first weekend, maybe by the end of the month, because if it sounds like you're too desperate, that's not good for negotiating either. Then they walk away and say, I'll just wait them out and offer half as much next time.
Yeah, I'll often use end of month too, like so it's not too much pressure or not, you know. It's great when the timing is like, okay, it's like 2 weeks to go before the end of the month, or even better before the end of the quarter, because you can just, you know, it really, it's not a real deadline, but it's one that you can kind of use as like, you know, it seems real.
And sometimes I think it's helpful to suggest, you know, you may need to take this to a board meeting, or you need to discuss this with your team, if for nothing else than to have them discuss it. Because if they forget about it and it was an optional name, it wasn't really necessarily necessary, but they go discuss it with someone, they say, wow, we could get that? That's a good idea. And then I think that can initiate a conversation in the company that results in a sale.
Here, Bansu asked, he's got an offer for telebiotechnology.com for $12K as an offer. What do you guys think?
Take that all day.
Yeah. So it means telebiotechnology.
What was the name?
Tele Biotechnology. So biotechnology preceded by a TELE. Bonsu, are you there? Do you have audio?
Yeah, 12
Yeah,
is pretty reasonable.
yeah, that was the first offer that came in.
Oh, that was the opening offer?
Yeah, that was the opening offer. Like a week before that, I had a 2.5 offer, 2,500K.
From the same person?
But, no, from a different person. Okay. So this other person came in with a 12,000 offer. I had a 50K buy it now price on it. So the first offer came in at 12K. And
50,
I told them to up their
50 or 15? 1.5 or 5.0?
5.0.
Okay.
5.0.
Yeah. If 12K was the opening offer, then definitely don't take that. I would drop down a little bit from your 50. You know, maybe go to like 45 or 47.5, and then let the let the games begin.
Okay. I tried to give them a price. I just told them to up their offer that it was quite low. So I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Where did you receive the offer?
Dan, on Dan.
Okay. It's a pretty good offer. It's a pretty good offer considering you've had the domain for what, 5 months?
Yes, 5 months. And I got it. It was veg free. I had registered it, so I didn't want to take the first offer like that.
Oh wait.
Wanted...
300K. Where's Joseph? 300K.
What's the domain?
Telebiotechnology.
Telebiotechnology. So biotechnology preceded by TELE. Telebiotechnology.
Gosh, $12,000 is the offer?
The opening offer.
Yes, please. Opening offer.
Can you see the company? Can you see the details in the Dan in the
I think it's a company. It's a company from Japan also.
A company in Japan.
The two of us. Yeah, the two of us came from Japan. 2 different companies from Japan. I can't remember their names currently.
If you know what who these companies are, I would really do some research. Try to find out about their competitive area, I mean, their competitor set, and see if you can engage in a conversation. I mean, you got a really good starting offer, and starting offers, I mean, it's hard to say they're usually like a third of the final price or a 10th of the final price. It really has a lot to do with your ability to move that to 10x it, perhaps. But you should really give a range, and try to learn as much as you can about the company, their competitor set, and try to engage in a conversation with them. That's really, I mean, you should be able to get at least, with that kind of a starting offer, I would say 60, 70K is really where I think that should end up in.
Okay, so from
if you type it into just FYI, if you type it into Google, exactly the Telebiotechnology, it's the second result, and it shows your previous buy it now price. I guess you had it for sale for 15K before. Is that right?
Yeah, that was after they sent the offer for 12K, and I told them to up their offer. It was actually 50K before. So when I told them to up their offer and I didn't hear from them, so I kept it as 15K to feel, okay, if they don't want to negotiate, they could just click on the buy now for 15K and I'll accept it. I think one of the company was SoftBank Corporation.
SoftBank.
That's what I got.
SoftBank?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then the second one was from one ARM group.
It's SoftBank.
Well, you hope.
SoftBank are massive. It's like
but they were financing the rental company. What was that?
You said what?
Airbnb.
No.
Or WeWork.
WeWork, yeah. Yes.
I'm still waiting to hear from them.
If they're interested and they really want a name,
They have deep
They
pockets.
have. I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. I don't know what their cap is, but it could be like 50.
Buy names though. They invest in companies.
Yeah, but why do they want that name? It's like exactly. They
I
don't buy
don't have
names.
any idea. I have no idea.
They don't even have their own .com, do they?
Shall we move on to the next thing?
Josh, you had a domain you want to talk about? You mentioned in chat.
No,
Robotic?
it was Luke. Luke's had a really good sell.
Oh yeah, we'd love to hear that.
Let's hear about it, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, most of you know the details already, which I posted not long ago on Twitter. I was very much inspired by the small paragraph on DN Journal, which mentioned very briefly Joseph's stellar sale. And I quickly did some research on some technologies which gravitate around that particular field. And I found one particular domain, which was priced at 3K on GoDaddy, Afternic. And I quickly got into contact with an Afternic broker to see if I could negotiate the price down a little bit. And I managed to get it for 2.5. So I created a list of prospects who I considered to be the top 50 potential end user buyers around the world. And then I started sending a few messages on LinkedIn and also a few personalized emails. So I got a few offers. And then after about 6 days, I received a 5K opening offer on Sedo. So I got my my account manager to reach out to the buyer, and we did some negotiations going back and forth for a few days, and we arrived at 22K, which I was pretty pleased with considering I had bought the domain 6 days before. So yeah.
Bravo.
Very
nice.
Bravo.
indeed. Yeah.
Very well done.
Oh,
So I'll be sending Joseph a gift next week
Good.
for the inspiration which was generated by his sale, which he shared, which he didn't have to share, which he did, and that helped. So I was pretty pleased about that. Yeah, this is the first time on this social, so it's nice to connect. I'm Federer at NamePros, so sometimes I do share some of my sales. I'm mainly a CCTLD investor, although I do have about 3,050 .coms. So my model is the following, in case you're interested. I have about 37,000 CCTLDs, which fuel the .com purchases. So these sell daily. These sell daily because of the sheer quantity of domains. I try and sell at least 1.2% per year. So that more than covers the costs. And then the profits, or a portion of those profits, are inserted into .com acquisitions, which usually occur in private. So most of my .coms, which I'm buying at the moment, are in private.
Wow. So
Can you tell us what kinds of CCTLDs you're buying and at what price point they typically sell for?
Most of them are European CCTLDs like .de. I've also purchased in the past .co.nz, New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
I've also purchased .cn and a few others. Most of the time, the sales price is between 500 and 5K. So that's quite a wide margin, but they're all hand registrations or previously owned domains, which I've re-registered. So I'm always getting them for the minimum fee. So as a business model, it makes sense.
And where are they selling?
Mainly 95% are selling where the landing page is, which is at Sedo, because they have a very strong end user base for European CCTLDs. So it makes sense. Most of the .coms are also pointing to Sedo. Most are at Afternic and at GoDaddy, but the CCTLDs are all at Sedo. If you have fixed price, as you probably most know, if you have fixed price on your domains at Sedo, you pay 10% commission, which is good.
Is it is it good because it's your lander, so it's your traffic, and you're paying 10%. for them to handle the transaction on traffic that you would have gotten anyway.
That's also true, but I'm prepared to pay the 10% for all the services which are included. So when I do receive an offer, my broker can reach out, they can speak to the buyer, they'll negotiate on my behalf, you know, with a price point which I'm comfortable at selling. And I'm prepared to pay the 10% because it includes all the technology, all the transfer. It includes also the following up. When the buyer doesn't pay, they receive automatic reminders. And Sedo do have a lot of credibility. I mean, a large portion of my sales are probably to German end users. And Sedo is basically the European GoDaddy. They're very, very comfortable. They trust Sedo. And I think that helps ignite a portion of those sales. So, you know, paying 10%, I can always increase my prices by an extra 5% to offset some of that commission. So
and Luke,
that works out well.
Does that 10% also cover the escrow services?
Yeah, the 10% is the total fee I pay for fixed price domains. Those that aren't priced, it's the standard 15%.
Okay.
So all the domains I am buying, just responding to the question in the chat, they're all English. I may have about 3%, which are between French and German and Spanish, but 97% are brand-centric English domains. You know, usually 2 words or a mixture of 1 word and pro, or those are the ones that sell the fastest.
Hi, Luke, it's Paige. I think we've interacted on Name Pros over the years, but I think on the 10%, the other factor is you do have to point them at Sedu parking.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And I haven't parked, didn't they move to having some actual just landing pages? And do you do the parking with the revenue, or do you do the one that's supposed to kind of be like, you know, the Dan, you know, or just the lander that just says buy without any ads, or do you do both? I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I just have the sales landing page. It's not really worth having ads on your names if you're primarily a domain seller, unless you have names, you know, which were previously developed that have good parking profiles. It's not worth it, because even a small portion of the end users that are interested in your name that arrive on your page filled with ads, they may not even see the mention that the domain name is for sale. It's just better to have a clear lander. So I've been using that for the past few years.
And do you still get the numbers? You know how on Sedu it says name, and sometimes it'll say visits to this page or visits to this lander. Do you know if you're on the sales lander, if that number shows up, and have you ever seen it make a difference or anything?
Most end users, to be honest, don't care at all about stats.
Yeah.
Whether you've received 10 or 2,000 previous offers, that has nothing to do with the want or the desire, probably, of a decent end user. So you do have that sales lander at Sedo. You have about 8 or 12 to choose from. I choose the most simplest, where it just has my domain. It indicates clearly that it's for sale with a fixed price. I think simplicity is usually best when it comes to the lander. If you start adding complications, it could diminish some of the sales.
Well, I sure appreciate that. I'm kind of re-engaging listing my names on Sedu, and so I'm trying to relearn them, and appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Well, on that note, it's 5:10, so we will switch over to the.
Can I ask one more thing, Arif?
Sure.
Luke, did you get much interest at all, other than the people that ended up buying a name? Maybe I missed that.
I received an email from one of the companies which I contacted, which is Pega Systems.
Mm-hmm.
So they're one of the big players. They're probably one of the top 7. They didn't actually make an offer, but they sent several emails asking for a price. And also they mentioned they would get in contact with my account manager at Sedo, and they would present an offer by email, because in the past they had blacklisted Sedo for whatever reason, and they had trouble submitting an offer through the landing page for that reason. So they mentioned they were going to do that, but they were stiff-armed because I mentioned about the offer. and they had no intention of making an offer which was higher than 22,000. So I also received strong interest from a consulting company, which according to their landing page, they acquire domains probably in stealth mode for big corporations. I have no idea who they were representing. It could be IBM, who are very big on robotic process automation, or another big company, but the domain had already sold. So I informed them about the situation. But I think, well, that was pretty encouraging. You know, several parties interested in the same domain in such a short space of time. You know, it shows that the domain had the value which I saw in it.
Do you know if it was previously registered? Like, did somebody drop it at some point in time, or?
Not that I know of. I think the Afternic GoDaddy listing hadn't been touched in at least 1 to 2 years, according to the broker. So they had set a 3,000 price, and they hadn't visited the listing since. Even with the technology emerging as it has done, especially over the last 18 months, they didn't revisit and adjust the price. Before I reached out to the Afternic broker, I tried to find the owner. I sent him an email. I searched his Twitter feed. I sent him a message on Twitter, because he has the exact match handle, robotic process automation, on Twitter, but I didn't hear back. So I reached out to the broker and acquired it through him.
Very proactive of you, really. Congratulations. I mean, it's incredible.
Thanks, Joseph.
No, really. I mean, you took a risk, but it paid off. And so kudos to you. Glad to have been an inspiration, as you said. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you too, Joseph. I don't really consider it to be a risk. There was no downside to this particular domain, and there was only, you know, pretty good upside. It could have been sold, you know, within days at the same price which I acquired. So there was no real downside in that sense.
So Luke, I have a question. Did you consider, when you tried to reach out or had the broker reach out to negotiate, that may trigger the person to increase the price or take it offline or whatever the case may be?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Because I think you said it was for 3,000 and then you reached out to see if you could get it for less, correct?
Yeah, but that was like a message exchange. I didn't officially make an offer at that stage. I checked with the broker. He mentioned to me that he had authorization to sell the domain name at 2.5. He said if it was an important domain to get the deal done today, he had authorization to sell the domain name at 2,500. So, because I was hesitating to make an offer at 1.5, but I was also hesitating to pay the full bin at 3. So that's when he stepped in and mentioned that if it was to get the deal done today, he could sell at 2.5.
And I think for most of us, that's a hint of how they use the floor number that we give them.
Yeah.
Where they can make it happen without really consulting us. They can actually open the transaction. If I was the seller of that name, as long as it's above my floor, they can just close it. You know what I mean? And I think we would all love to think that they would, you know, go high, but I think that's why we put the floor in there, is it lets someone feel like they got a little better deal than full retail, and they can close it right away without having to send an email and saying to the seller, hey, can you do any better? And that was interesting. Well, I want to try to get the benefit of one more question for you, Luke. When you did the LinkedIn, do you just use the credits to kind of send kind of a cold email or a cold message, or do you try to connect and kind of introduce yourself or something like that, if you don't mind sharing? Do you have any tips for maybe some of us on the LinkedIn part of outreaching?
Hold on a second. For LinkedIn, I have the premium account. Mm-hmm. So what I do, I try and connect with the key contact at any given company, and I just add a little note. You know, just mentioning that you may be interested to know that the following domain name is now available for purchase. I don't even mention that it's mine. I just mention the domain name is now available for purchase, mention the domain. Interested parties are invited to submit an offer at, and then I put the domain name, because if they click on it, they'll arrive at the landing page. So if they're interested, they'll add me into their network or their bid on the domain name at Sedo.
So you're not having to use one of your email credits. You're able to just do it as kind of a connection request.
Exactly.
And then
Yep.
they're seeing the note along with it, and then they can decide. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Hey, Paige, I just
Yeah.
wanted to share about a tool that I use. I'm going to drop it in the link.
Hey, Anthony, how you doing?
Hey, doing great, man. It's called getemail.io, and it's a really cool tool. And when you pull up on anyone's profile, even if you're not connected with them, it's a Chrome extension. It will attempt to find a legit email, and it works pretty well. Aside from that, I do just a regular connection request as well. I don't use any credits, but I've had pretty decent success connecting with people on LinkedIn. So just wanted to share that little tool.
Appreciate it. That's good stuff.
Luke, one more question. Do you often do outbound, or was this your first one?
I very, very rarely do outbound because, as I mentioned, on most of my domains, about 37,000, they all have fixed prices. So these are just all incoming sales that happen daily. But on some very good outbound, on some very good .coms, which I acquire, sometimes I'll test the waters. So I'll send out a few messages to the right people at the right companies, or what I feel are the right companies. And if no one replies, or if I don't get any offers, I'll just leave it at that. So I think outbound is probably more ideal for domains in the 500 to 5K range. I think the higher end domains, it's always best to just wait for the higher offers.
But in your case, it seems like outbound was the difference between 2.5 and 22K.
Yes, in this case it was. Yeah, you're right.
The difference was the hustle.
Excellent job. Plus the hustle.
That's what
Yeah.
made all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
And the benchmarking as well, I think that might have helped.
The what, sorry?
No, and I said, I mean, probably the benchmarking also helps. Like by the time you reach the potential buyer for robotic process automation, you know, he or she might have heard what cognitive automation sold for. So that might have had perhaps some ease, if you will, in them accepting to pay $22,000 for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. When my broker reached out to what would be the new owner at Cedo after they made the 5,000 offer, I did ask her to mention about that particular sale. I'm not sure if she did. I'm not sure if that added a little bit of credibility, but there is a good chance that she mentioned the sale, so that may or may not have fueled the final sales price.
True, and you were also lucky that the original seller had not heard of it, because then they might have decided to price it a little bit over 3,000. So I think it all worked out. It was a perfect scenario for you. Once again,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks again to you.
Congrats on that. All right. Well, anybody have any more questions for him, or we'll go to the auctions? There's only 6 this week, so it should go pretty quick. And here we go. So just a general info about submitting your domains for auction. Submit it to info@domainsocial.com and use the title domain for auction. So I see it. I check them every Wednesday. 1 domain per person per week. You must be present at the auction.